And with that, I will turn it over to Corey. Thank you, Corey.
All right. Yeah, welcome everybody. So I've been really stoked on this new tool called Streamlit. And here's their website right here. Basically, what we have going here is you can build your machine learning program in any IDE that you'd like, Google Colab, or I'm using PyCharm. And then you can take your project and Streamlit does all of the front-end hosting for you. So you just install it, which is super easy. Just use your package manager to install Streamlit. It'll have you log in the first time you use it. And then from there, it will generate a gorgeous website for you. And here is what I have going on. This is a kind of like a companion app for a tabletop RPG game called Lancer. And this landing page is the art Bible. Just has all of the art from the game. And you can filter by tag. And I've got some other pages here showing off some different features. Expandable drop downs. A select
This is character
list.
generation.
Yeah, it's like think of like D&D but more sci-fi with mechs. So you have your character, which is the pilot, and then you have your frame, which is your mech. And this is only just an example. It's really not built out to the level that you need to make a character, but I just wanted to show off some of the different features. And so here we have a table that I'm loading from a database, and it's just all of the different kinds of weapons that you can equip your mech with. And then down here, using that data, I made a Plotly bar graph here. And so it just shows the weapon range versus the weapon type. And then all the pages have this footer. And this is actually its own class right here, but let's jump into PyCharm and look at the structure of the project and just kind of how it works. So the directory is a little chaotic. I think I'd like to organize it a little bit more. But typically you're always going to start out with kind of like your index, your landing page. And I would have it named as such, except the way that their pages work is kind of one of the things that's not very Pythonic. Everything else is very, cohesive with how Python likes to do stuff, naming conventions and all. So the pages here on the sidebar are pulled directly from the Python script name. So as you can see, that's the art Bible. And then there's the pilot creation and the build frame pages. And when you have multiple pages, all of the pages except for the index go in this pages directory. And so let's look at the structuring of the first page here. So you just get your Streamlit import. And the second convention that they break, but it's not that big of a deal to me personally, is there's this strange, I mean, you could call it a bug, but maybe it's intended. After you import Streamlit, you have to set page config, and what that does is it sets your page title, and you can choose to have an icon and a layout type. And so, for instance, I can change this, and the local debugging feature is really amazing. Let me just show you how to do that. So I'll close this window and close this terminal. So you do Streamlit, run, and then the name of your page, usually just your index, and it'll open up a browser for you. And then as soon as you change something, because it's running in the terminal, it'll detect that and it should automatically reload. So now we can see that the title for the page is now test, like I just changed it. And if I change it back and save, it doesn't automatically. You can always just refresh, and there we are, back to how it was. So that's kind of the basic setup just to get your page going. And then for all of my pages, I have a CSS file I'm using to import some fonts and some other settings. Right now I'm just using font. For one of my other projects, like for instance, through the way that Streamlit shows plots, it kind of has just a general purpose way of doing it. It's called Streamlit.write, and I'll go through all this. I'm just going to jump down here to give you an example. Let's see. Let me go to where I actually have my plot here. So Streamlit.write, that's kind of their magic bullet solution for anything and everything. You can just feed it any type of object. For instance, I'm just giving it a data frame here, and it just automatically figures out what the object is and how to display it. So this table is generated with Streamlit.write, as well as this plot. So that's kind of, I think, the most powerful feature. You can also do other really cool things like use Markdown, and then they have more familiar things, for front-end developers and designers, like headers, subheaders, text, image, etc. So let's just go back here to the start and start looking at the page and kind of breaking down the elements here. So we have our sidebar, of course. The sidebar just comes stock. I think there's a way to disable it, but for this, you can have your page links here like a nav bar, and then below that you can have whatever options, buttons, selection groups that you want. So like here I have this button, all or none, well, both buttons, all or none. So this will be, I better explain what these are. So I'm filtering by image tag. So I have a bunch of images in here, and each image I've, in the metadata of the image, I've included, different tags of what's in the image. Like this one is supplies, pilot, page, full, lifestyle. So you can, select different types of filters, and like if you only want portraits. Say you're trying to make a character and you want to pick a cool portrait for them, you can come through here, filter by portrait or character, and then you can just get a link directly to the image. And they actually have another app that the actual company who developed Lancer has made. It's called CompCon, and you can actually go through and like do similar things, create characters, create mechs, missions, etc. But I found their sources of imagery was pretty lacking, so I was like, yeah, we can fill that need. So let's go through and look at the code behind this bar, these buttons, and then these selection groups.
Where are the images coming from?
Oh yeah, good question. So in the structure we have a resources folder, and then in that I have the art folder, and it's just a bunch of images dumped in there.
Did you make those, or where did?
So I went through their manual, and I pulled them all out of the manual. Yeah. Yeah, they've got a free PDF on itch.io where it has like, the process, making a character, the game rules, etc. And they had all that cool imagery, but I was trying to look for like an official source, and everybody had just ripped it out, and it was just you had to go to like a bunch of different websites to get your image for one mech or one pilot, etc.
Is Streamlit limited to a static app, or can you make it dynamic with searches?
That I'm not sure on. I'm pretty new to web development type stuff.
I'm just thinking because like if you could auto-generate those through an API call to one of the 3D AI services.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
That's
then,
what I was thinking.
Then you
was
could
the
use your
images
tags that you know work.
Nice.
That are good, and then filter those some way on your end so they're not getting garbage back, so they get a better version.
Oh, I totally think you could do that.
A lot of like the Bing AI one, a lot of those are like search terms that it takes hours to learn how to use it.
Mm-hmm.
But like in the style of is like the keyword set for those.
Right.
So either in the style of this person, this known artist that it can find online, or photorealism or some journalistic term.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought the tags were like what you used when you were like generating the images. Like, I just assumed that they were all made from like Midjourney or something.
Right. Yeah, no, it's definitely I've been using I think it is Midjourney that my friend he set up Discord server, and I've been using that. So it's kind of some cross pollination there, but what I actually did is I just I've literally, so here's just the project directory itself. And when you open up an image or a file in, sorry, I'm a little awkward in this operating system. This is not what I'm using on my home PC. So just the JPEG file itself has this metadata, these tags, which I've literally never used those in my life until this point. I was like, how can I embed these in the images so that I can just pull them all from the images and not have to know what the tags are?
If you wanted to hide those, you can also hide those under GPS data. So you can build your own codes and then change the GPS data for the photo into the code that you want it to display. That way somebody can't see actually what the tags are.
Oh, okay.
If you were looking to do that.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure it would be cool to have that, like, kind of abstract away some of that stuff.
Or if you wanted to maintain ownership over it, it's like a digital watermark.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I definitely don't want to do that because there's a
photos you took from their
disclaimer.
PDF.
Yeah, there's a disclaimer like massive press, they own these images, so that's all them. I just wanted to make them available for players of the game to, if you're using their other app, you could just go grab some links to these images and then include them.
Yeah, you're working like an interface to the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but I actually I am pulling in some live data, which I will get to here in a bit for the build frame page. I'm just hitting an Elephant SQL database and pulling down a table, and then putting that into a Pandas data frame and plotting some data. So, yeah, the CSS file, I think I briefly touched on that. So I'm just grabbing a font from Google and just setting all headers with the wildcard to use that Black Ops 1 font. And that's what we see right here. And then I had the need to, I had some plots that the client wanted a white background on a dark theme. So having square plots looked really awkward, and I wanted to get some rounded corners to match some of their text. It was a very bubbly kind of font. So I had this SVG container, which is the object class that Streamlit outputs for plots to round the corners on those. By default, so you can do CSS style, but Streamlit provides you with their own way of kind of a very simple way to generate a theme. And this is going back to TOML files, David's favorite.
Oh yeah, I'll get that TOML on.
Oh yeah. So in the .streamlit folder is kind of where you have like your configuration files and where you also put secret files for your database connections. So they have this TOML theme object here with the primary color, background color, secondary background color, and then text and a font, which the font is really just one of 3 choices. It's not an actual like font type. Excuse me. So right now I've got this kind of like bright red theme going on, but we can update that to another theme that I had prepared and just kind of see what that looks like. So I'm going to do, let's see, I think this is bright red. Yeah. And let's see what it looks like now. So we've got white background, kind of dark red secondary background with the black text. And so it's just that easy to kind of theme your site. And then anything beyond that, you kind of have to go in there into the nitty gritty and start messing with CSS objects. And the approach for that was the most straightforward, was pretty much just going in and inspecting the tags that the different components are generating and then targeting those classes. And I won't get too much into that because that gets really hairy and I feel like kind of downplays the ease of use of Streamlit.
What is the gradient line across the top?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was looking at that earlier. I think it's a part of this kind of like developer view, because this is running local. Yeah, I remember briefly reading something about it. Someone was trying to get rid of it. I'm sure there's a way to do that. I haven't delved into that yet, but I probably will here in the future. I'm just going to revert. Those colors are kind of throwing me right now.
So if you, in that like DevTools thing you had open, if you turn on that reload on save.
Oh, the DevTools?
Or sorry, the settings.
Mm-hmm.
If you turn on that run on save, will it, if you like change the color, will it automatically refresh?
Yeah.
Or like hot reload?
That is what it was doing. I think I must have disabled it at some point.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so now if we make a change, let's see, like, let's go in here and just throw another divider after the title, save it. Oh, yep, that is the way to enable that. So now it automatically reloads and we won't have to refresh. Thank you.
That's cool.
Yeah. And then wide mode. Yeah, I haven't. Oh yeah, that relates to the layout, which I believe I'm setting at the top of the page in this set page config method. I think that relates to this. It's either centered or wide. I've found the wide one doesn't play as well on mobile, so I keep it centered. And you can, if you want, you can do things like setting the width of images and different components, but that also kind of messes with the mobile layout. So I've been doing kind of just the, the bootstrap method of just the fluid format. And so let's go on to our imports here. I've just got some stuff to work with images, the image tags. Image object is a class that I wrote, just a very simple little data structure. All it does is save the image file path and the tags associated with the image.
So is it scraping those out of the image?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, that's coming through right in this method here, instantiate image objects. So I get a glob of the resources art folder, and then I just read through each file path, get the EXIF data, check if it has tags, and then I extract all the tags out of it. I have to do some bit crunching and stuff, and then just generate my object, append it to an array, and return the array. And this is one of the nifty features of Streamlit. You can set up your methods to do caching. So this method, because it has this little modifier, or whatever you want to call it, property, it will cache the object returned from this method. And so whenever you reload the page, like every time you save and it reloads, it doesn't have to run that again. It just, as long as you're giving the method the same parameters, it'll return you the same object. So it's a pretty cool way to, especially if you're doing like machine learning stuff that takes 30 seconds to run a hierarchical clustering algorithm. You don't want to sit there and wait 30 seconds every time. So it'll just cache that. And then there's also another thing you can do, which I'm not using, but I could see it being useful if you're hitting a database and you don't know what you're going to pull yet. So you just want to keep the connection open. You can do cache_resource. And so that'll just keep your connection object in the cache, and you won't have to keep opening new connections to your database. So the image objects here are what I'm getting from this method, and it's kind of weird to me, like writing code in a functional way like this, but it's an adjustment. But here's where I'm just hard coding my image tags, and ideally, like I was saying before, I'd read in all the images and just get a list of the tags, and then I wouldn't necessarily like sort them into groups. I would just kind of have like one big blob of tags to choose from. But because I had already broken them up logically, I just decided to group them up that way as well.
Did you have to add those tags to all the images yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Did you just do it by looking at it and?
Yeah. I know there's better ways to do it, but I just love the art so much. I was just nerding out over it.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah. So here is where. So this is my section for setting up the sidebar. I have my objects here, my lists, and then I'm using these methods as on-click events for the all button and the none button. So when you click all, it sets the state of all of those multi-select objects to just be the full list. And then when you click none, it just sets them all to be an empty list. And the Streamlit objects are interesting in the way that like you can, I'm pretty sure, oh yeah, this is, so the multi-select returns you an object of just pretty much the state, like as an array. Let's see, returns a list with the selected options. So it's kind of interesting, like I always think like, oh, I want my multi-select object, you know, because I want to have a reference to that if I need to change its state or something. But the way that you create it is that you just give it a key, and then literally the session state will just have a property created for you on the fly that is the representation of that object. And I mean, I guess it's just really the data, but you know, on the back end, that's like the go-between between the actual object and the data it's displaying. So let's see. Yeah, I just have my header, my 2 buttons, and then all of the different selection groups. And then so now I'm going on to the page content, and here we have the title. I wish I had 2 screens. It's killing me right now. I have the just the title, and we have that other divider, which I'm going to get rid of that. But this is where the actual action is happening with the filtering of the images. And again, this is just running in a functional way. Every time a state is changed on the page, like this, it just runs that whole Art Bible script again. And so as I remove these, you'll start to see far less. And so every time it reloads, it's running this filter images, and I'm just using my arrays to you know, filter which images have the tags, and then I actually display those with streamlit.image, and then each image has a caption with its tags, and then a markdown, just a space between them there. And then I have my show footer method, and that has all of this goodness down here, my disclaimer, third-party license stuff, their image that they request you use when doing third-party stuff, and then just my sentiment of what I want the app to be and how I want it to be used. And so I opted to have the footer in its own thing just so I could, you know, easily add the footer like you would in a component kind of front-end development style.
If you omit the footer, does the powered by Streamlit tag disappear, or does it stay on there?
Oh, yeah. I think I was looking into that too. There is a way to do that, to like get rid of it or change it, but yeah, no, the footer is purely my construction.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, they kind of, I mean, I think they're trying to toe the line between making it really accessible and you know, not loading in features that people aren't going to use. Oh yeah, there's the ComCon.
I saw
Yeah.
their GitHub profile on your
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. So I mean, their whole project is really cool because they have a team of developers that are building apps and tools for people to build their own content. So there's an app, I think it's a bit behind their versions of their actual ComCom app, but there's like a content creator app that I actually got it loaded up on my machine at home. You can go in there and create missions and create environments and like everything that the developers would be using to create their content. And it's all open source. Like I just forked their repo, and yeah. So I'm really looking forward to diving into that stuff too.
Is it tabletop or is it okay?
Yeah, there's on the Steam, or well, it's on Steam Workshop, but what is that? Tabletop Simulator. On Tabletop Simulator, someone made kind of like a pared back, like battle simulator type thing, because the game is very much like a tabletop when you're doing the narrative play. You know, like, oh, I'm gonna go to a warehouse and try to buy some more mech weapons off of you know who. And then the actual combat, when you get into a fight, it's more like a turn-based tactical game. So,
like an RTS.
like a tactics game, like chess or XCOM or Final Fantasy Tactics is my
XCOM's
go-to.
really close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always pushing Final Fantasy Tactics Advanced on everybody I meet. That's like my
The original was
fave.
good.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The second one was not.
So can you like buy, if you wanted to play this game out, like what do you
could
need to
spend
buy?
all your money.
What's the minimum amount of money you need to spend?
Nothing. Actually, they provide the version 1 rulebook, which I don't think they're far beyond that really. They might be on like version 2. And then they also provide like itch.io. If you go to itch.io.massivepress, or I can just pull it up right here.
You could spend $300 and play it, or you could spend a week finding free resources and play it.
Yeah, I've actually been modeling my own board pieces, little hexagon terrain tiles, printing those off in preparation
And there's
for.
printable pieces, so you can like print off a piece on paper and then just use that on tabletop.
Or that, yeah. I'm doing like PLA little hexagon tiles, so we're gonna get like a paper grid, and I'm gonna go full out with magnets and everything, so the pieces are gonna stick to the board, and the game pieces for the mechs will probably just be like a little holder for like a little cardboard insert or paper insert. Because you can change mechs a lot. You can have multiple different mechs. So you might switch out some. If the play group really gets into it, I'll probably just start printing off little mini versions of the mechs, and people can have those either on the board or just like in front of them.
That's cool.
But
there are services that people use for tabletop gaming to where you can preload all of your data from your stuff, and like they're game agnostic. So whatever the tabletop game is, you give them your set. So you're like, okay, I'm using this game type. So they know based off the game type selected, it's 16 millimeter figure or a 25 or a 28 or a 32. And then you've got the details for the thing that you want printed up, and someone will 3D print it and then ship it to your door. So within a week, you can have your physical character based off the one that you just created.
There's one called Hero Forge.
oh yeah, I've used that. That's really cool. Like you
You can
can
get the
create
models
really
on
dynamic characters, like
Frog people.
Yeah, exactly. I made like this. I was thinking like Redwall, and I made like this medieval like mouse knight
cool.
character. Yeah, so on itch.io they've got their free rulebook and their player sheets, which are very similar to a D&D, what's your name, what are your stats type of layout. But yeah, let's look more at some of the other features I'm using here. So there's the pilot creation page, and this has got a few different things going on. So we've got just a subheader here, and then we've got this expandable drop down, and then inside that I've got I think just 2 text components. Let's look at it. And I'm also, I have that method to hit the database too, but we'll look at that in a sec. Let's see. Oh yeah, I forgot. I'm actually, one of their GitHub repos, they actually like provide all of their data for the game. So they have things, anything you could really want for like character information, background, etc. Let me pull it up here.
Is that where you're getting those descriptions from?
Yeah. So I'm getting their raw Git files from this directory. So they have all of their packaged up JSON informations. Like here's the one I'm getting for the background. So it's just an array of different backgrounds. So I just go in there. I've got my addresses right here. So in this get data method, I'm just using a request to get that get at the text in the JSON, and then I'm just parsing it through the standard Python JSON package and spitting out a dictionary of these different things. So the dictionary name gets whatever the key is for the address, actions, backgrounds, pilot gear, and then I'm displaying that right here. So here's the subheader that I mentioned, background, and the drop-down uses width for this expander component. And then inside of that, I'm just looping over all of the different backgrounds in that JSON array and displaying the name, the description, and then just a space.
Why do you use unsafe allow HTML for that?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, so by default, it's false, and how they have their data, like right here, you can see they've got HTML type styling tags. And so by default, this markdown component will not run those. It'll just treat them like text. So now that I've done that, I'll save. So when you go to look at them, you get those included.
Is there a way to like tell it like, okay, you can use some HTML elements, but like if someone tries to put a script tag in your thing, don't render that?
Yeah, for just at a surface level glance, when I was looking at it, I don't think so. I think what you'd have to do is probably just parse it out yourself, just convert it yourself, and then, ideally you'd want to use Markdown because like that's what it's intended for. It's kind of Markdown's just like accepted throughout the Streamlit app. So let me see what other.
I mean, you could replace HTML tags with Markdown tags.
Yeah. I mean.
So you just process it as you're scraping it.
Yeah, like when I'm pulling it down, when I'm after like I parse the JSON right here, I would probably have like another method, like convert to Markdown or what have you. But yeah, no, I know. I was like unsafe. Like I better not.
Someone's gonna put a script in their description.
Right. Yeah, no, that is definitely something to be wary of.
Watch out for a character named Bobby drop tables.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was like nervous about presenting and having my secrets file in here. Like, should I just show them really quick, or should I just
Where does that database live?
It's in Elephant SQL hosting. It's a Postgres.
Log in real quick.
Yeah, it's a Postgres database. I have it up here.
Can you bring that secrets back up again?
Yeah, right. Where's my screen cap?
Oh, that's neat. I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, so I just have just this one little table I threw in here today just to have an example. But yeah, I've only ever really used Postgres, and it's never given me trouble, so I just keep using it. It's kind of a pain. Like I can show you how I'm pulling down stuff from there. So because of, I think it's something with how it's hosted, you have to kind of do this roundabout way to read your table from Postgres instead of just a typical like pandas operation, where you just feed it your host name and your secret and stuff all in one, chain, all in one string. So you give it the host name, the port, database, user, password, etc. And then you also have to put that file. So like that's just for local use, right? I don't have that in my GitHub repo. That's in the ignore list. And then when you actually go to host it, I can show you the page where you set up some of the parameters for that. Oh my gosh, it's gonna make me do this thing. Yeah, it has this weird thing where like every once in a while it just wants you to acknowledge that you're sharing your GitHub. It's kind of annoying, but if you just click through it, it's fine. So here's my different apps that I have.
Let's look at your financial activity.
No. That is actually the one that I wanted to share, but I haven't got permission yet. I have another project coming up that I may get permission for. It's not on here yet, but I'll be adding it this week. So as soon as you like deploy an app, it'll pop up here in your apps. And so in this secrets page, I won't show it, but it'll be like that toml file where you have, Postgres, username, hostname, etc. And then you can set other options, like you can define the deployed like URL.
What was that sharing part?
So the sharing, you can choose to share it with people, kind of like Google, how you just give an email and set the permissions. Except it's just you just say this person can view it, and then they can actually access the URL if they're logged in on the browser with that email.
So if you're sending them a link to that email and they respond back using that link, they can view. But if they just typed it in, they couldn't get to it.
I think
like a one-time token kind of deal.
Either. Oh, sorry, I was talking about this invite by email. Yeah, I think as long as they're like logged in with their Google account that you shared it to, their Gmail.
Yeah, you build a whitelist.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I've had one of my clients. He, for some reason, has been having trouble viewing it, but for multiple other people, it wasn't a problem. So I'm not sure if he's using some browser or he never clicked the link, or I don't know what's going on there. But
I'd be curious how they handle the permissions for that.
Yeah, it is curious. Yeah, so they don't have a lot of options, but you can oftentimes, when you make some big changes, you'll have to reboot the deployment. Sometimes it'll work on its own after after X amount of time of pushing up your changes to your repo. Because what it's doing is it's just watching my GitHub repo, my main branch, and that is just the index.
Can you build in alerts for downtime?
Not that I know of, but that would be a sweet feature for sure. And then there's this indication of whether or not it's private or public. If the world icon represents public, and then this one is private, so they say that you get one free private one, and then after that you have to start some subscription-based service. I haven't got into that yet, so I'm not too sure on the details.
I was gonna ask, like, is there pricing, or is it, how does that work?
I'm sure there is. Let's look for it.
It's the no free lunches.
10 scalpel.
Right.
There ain't no such thing as a free lunch.
Who was he?
Heinlein?
Hmm?
Heinlein,
Yeah, who's that?
the writer? It's Stormtroopers.
Oh,
His quote.
I don't think I've seen that.
Looks like it might fall
Yeah,
under
it's all-
if you have to ask.
Right? They don't want you to ask, but they say that you can have unlimited public apps, which is cool.
It's free until it's not, and then they'll take all your money.
Right? And then it's like an arm and a leg.
Yeah.
Probably. I was kind of too scared to look because I was afraid that might be the case. But I'll tell you next meetup because I'll have my second private one by then.
Mm.
So if I'm looking pretty disheveled, I probably wasn't able to afford, skincare products and food and, that sort of thing.
So, if you wanted to, because you said they have that function, I think it was .write, that just kind of takes in anything and tries to figure out how to render it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming that they provide in their like API a way to create your own component or class and tell Streamlit how to try and render it. Hey, how are you?
Hey, hello. How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Like
Good.
is. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, yeah, I saw someone asking a question about that. They had just some object, I think just a class that they had written.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think there is a way. Let me see if I can find that question really briefly. Because yeah, like especially if you're doing some really in-depth stuff, it would be cool to do that.
So Streamlit is free, but it looks like they're hiding stuff. But it looks like it's part of another service. Somebody else is offering something, and Streamlit is like the kicked out community.
Oh,
Interesting.
interesting. Okay, what is the other?
I'm looking for it.
Oh, okay.
Could you stream it without using their cloud? Like just like say I want to run
Oh, like
streaming on
deploy it.
AWS. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to use their.
Yeah, you can. I've looked at some guides, like in their community website. There's a guide on how to deploy it using Docker.
So you
So
can
you-
just run it wherever you want.
Yeah, you make a Docker image and then host it on Google or Azure or wherever. Let's
Okay, so
see.
Streamlit is owned by Snowflake. Snowflake bought Streamlit for $100 million, for $800 million So-
Seriously?
Damn.
Whoa.
a year ago.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Dang.
in their documentation they mentioned Snowflake everywhere, and I
Yeah.
was wondering why.
So
it
Snowflake
was
bought them
so-
a year ago.
Okay.
For almost $1 billion.
Dang.
Well, that's when money had value.
Yes.
So could be a use it or lose it scenario.
Dang.
I mean, for like yet another like Python web thing, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
For
I wonder how this
2% of the
compares
cost of
to
Twitter.
Pinecone. Isn't that another like write your front end in Python kind of deal?
I never used Pinecone, but obviously there's like Flask, Django, Fast API, Pylons, Pyramid, Web2Py, Zillion.
I tried Django and I don't get it. Flask was way easier.
Really?
Yeah, I've been
made a lot
meaning
of
to
sense.
look into
Just drink the
Flask
Kool-Aid.
too.
Yes.
Flask
So-
was super easy.
Flask annoys me.
I'm not saying it's good.
Yeah.
I'm saying I used it once and it worked.
You
Django
should
would not.
try Bottle.
Haven't
It's
tried
supposed to be like an easier.
Yeah, I'm not
Very
seeing that
Flask-like
question
thing, but,
about
like,
the
easier.
custom thing, but
That's okay. I can look at the docs. Yeah,
I
I'm just
had-
curious.
I had stumbled on it because I was curious too, like how magic is it really?
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
because under and something's figuring out what to render. So I'd just be curious how easy it is to hook into that.
Yeah, they probably just have like an ongoing list of like supported object types, you know, popular stuff, Plotly objects and stuff. That's my guess.
So, have you used SQLite before? If you use SQLite and it can host the file, you can keep your database on a file hosted and then only use the script to go scrape their files. That way you don't have to deal with constantly keeping a connection open because it's your own file hosted locally.
Nice. Yeah, I'm not doing that right now. I'm just hitting it once, just the first time it loads for the user. I think when it deploys, like every deployment, I think is kind of its own instance. So like it'll load the first time you visit it, and then it just keeps that open as long as you have the browser open, or it keeps it cached. I mean,
Is Streamlit what's handling interacting with your database, or are you writing that yourself and you just wrap it in like a function that Streamlit calls? I think
yeah.
you showed it. Oh, okay. So you're just using. I never know how to pronounce that. PyCopG2.
Yeah, something
David,
like
how do you
that.
pronounce it?
Postgres.
No. Well.
It's your Postgres connector.
Gotcha.
But how do you
Okay.
pronounce that word? Because there's that version 3, there's that version 2.
It's like a bad
Psychop
Marvel
G?
movie name.
There it is.
Psychop G2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Return.
The return.
I call it Psycho PG2 because it sounds very horror.
I like that.
It's a little easier.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I get my connection, and actually I am using cache resource, so I am caching my connection to the database, and then I just use it once, really. So it's probably unnecessary to do that. Yeah, you're welcome to sit over here too if you want.
Feel free to. That one's got a blanket on it.
Yeah.
Stephanie won't mind.
So yeah, I'm just doing one query, just to grab that one table, and yeah, you have to use the cursor and go through and grab the rows and the headers, which is kind of gross. Just knowing how easy it is to just get the from database type method, but
The SQLite is actually.
It's fantastic. It's pretty
yeah, I need to check it out for
And
sure.
You can pair that with Google image alerts. So the Google will like look at a page and see whether it has changed or not. And you can set a threshold for it and say if it's more than 5% different. So like, okay, the banners and the footer have changed, but the content's the same, then it won't alert you. But if it's more than 5%, it'll send you an alert to your email.
Nice.
And then you can build that in as like, oh, I need to go back and check the database again, but otherwise I don't need to scrape it. So scrape it once, leave it alone until you get an alert.
Oh, I have some ideas of what I'm going to use that for in some of my projects. That's
And
awesome.
Until they get rid
Not
of it.
inferring that what you did was wrong.
Oh yeah,
But
no.
it's more of that was when you mentioned that, I was like, yeah, that actually would be really cool.
If it is wrong, that's all good
No,
because
if it's
I'm
wrong, I did it.
I'm very new to like databases and stuff like that,
Rebooting
so it's just
Hey, you didn't show your secrets page.
I've done that for like a topic.
step one.
Yeah, you're good.
Don't
If
divulge
the
sensitive
migration
information.
is on the page, then it's not going to give you the alert but on that page. So,
Yeah.
if you wanted to be alerted every time the president gives a speech and like the transcript shows up, you can put it on the president's page of transcripts. And then every time that changes, you'll know if there's a new speech. So you can go in and take a look.
Just pray they have an RSS feed.
It's nobody has RSS anymore.
Yeah.
They canceled all of it. It's completely invalid now. Google won't support it. Too much pressure from Microsoft.
So where I'm loading in the tables, I'm just calling that load tables method in here, and that in turn is calling my my method to run the query. And so the method just spits out an array, which I'm just accepting as a tuple format. And then in the figure, I'm just grabbing some random columns to compare, spitting out a bar graph. But there's so much more I wanted to show with plotting and stuff. Like there's some cool features that they have. Pretty much every component has like this maximize feature, so you can get a great view of your data. And then you've got like I love these Plotly interactive graphs. All these nifty options. Yeah, like I don't know. I mean, if you guys know Plotly, I guess it wouldn't be that much more beyond that, but I just think it's so amazing. Like you just do write plot and boom, there it is.
It's like Tableau, except you're not broke at the end.
Yep.
How can you filter that table that it renders for you? Like, does it give you like up above the
Oh, this?
yeah? Can you like does it give you like out of the box like drop downs or anything like that?
Just sorting, I think.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, there. Yeah, like what would be an example of a table? Is
Like
there?
maybe you want to filter by like the name column and or
Only
maybe
heading or
yeah.
something like that.
or like a search that just kind of searches the whole table. I think you were asking about search earlier.
Yeah, that reminds me of the feature in Google Colab where you like view a table, like you print a table, and then you can kind of go into that like I forget what they call it. It's like magic table viewer thing or something, and then you can like you have some additional functionality like filtering, sorting, downloading as like a CSV, stuff like that.
Yeah, the whole table is loaded into current running memory, and then a subset is offered up based off your selection set.
Mm.
So it's still running the whole thing, so you're still memory intensive on that, but you can view a much smaller set, any subset of that's available.
Yeah, that would be nifty. I'm sure if you figure out whatever framework that's using, you could probably just feed it to the right method and it would print it out all the same. I just discovered this today. You can expand this, change the window size. I didn't actually know that before. Yeah, that's pretty much what I have to show here. Is there any questions or anything?
How configurable is that? Like, I mean, Plotly's nice and all, but there's probably like 50 billion different JavaScript charting languages. If you had a preference for one instead of that, is there like a setting you can change to like use Chart.js or
Oh
any
yeah,
of the other ones?
yeah, I think so. Like here in my requirements, I have tons of stuff in here just from, I think I imported this from another project because I just wanted to have everything. But I mean, yeah, you would just, so let's see, where am I actually making my, so I'm generating my figure just using the Plotly graph objects. But yeah, you could import any library and it would probably know how to handle it.
Yeah, that'd be fun to play with. And
Yeah.
for your data frame, I mean, if you're pulling data out of a database, it should be in some kind of structured form, even if it is just like an SQL response. Is there a reason why you have to put it in a data frame to make that table happen?
The reason, so I'm getting, so are you saying like having a data frame object that you pull from the DB?
So I guess thought I heard earlier that you said you're using a pandas data frame to make that.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you had a structured data, like even if it's just like raw JSON or CSV or something like that, could you make the HTML table render from that instead of having to go through the extra step of like putting data that in this case you're pulling it straight from the database into a data frame into Streamlit to make an HTML table? It seems like a lot of steps to do
Yeah.
something that hopefully you'd be able to do with like fewer steps.
I see.
You mean like rendering from JSON straight into HTML?
Exactly.
Yeah, let's try it. So right here, let's say we just want to return I'm just gonna try to return an array here, and I'm curious to see if it'll just know how to return that. Oh, did I get rid of my table name?
Looks like in August through October, they're going to work on setting the page title outside of the file name.
Oh
It's on
yeah,
the roadmap.
nice. I bet a lot of people were irritated by that.
Easily add an emoji icon to the top of your page.
$800 million well spent.
I mean, Musk didn't buy Twitter because Twitter as a platform is all that particularly useful to him. He bought it because the technology itself would be useful in interplanetary communication. It's the right data packet size to be able to transfer stuff fairly quickly across. Because there's like a 22-minute lag between Mars and Earth. So technically they'll be sending tweets back and forth.
Well, Elon's
Gotta
got to
respect
reach
the
us
long-term
somehow. So, David, I just grabbed the two-dimensional array and printed that just to see what would happen.
Oh, wow.
Well, you got an array. It looks like you can expand elements in it. That's kind of cool in itself.
Yeah. Looks like, is this copy, or,
Oh, that's neat.
So it's
Copy to
viable,
clipboard.
you just need to play with it.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, totally.
I was curious about creating custom things, and it looks like they have some official docs on how to create. I guess they call it a component. Like
Nice.
maybe if you had the 50,001. How do you say that? Yeah. Map library or whatever that you wanted to render.
Nice. So I wonder, does this come with its own like CSS styling that you
I think it's for like.
apply?
No, that's a good question. I don't know. They have some videos.
Oh,
Looks like
nice.
some tutorials and a gallery of third-party components, which it looks like you can just install from like PyPI.
Yeah, I haven't even checked out the community ones, but I'm sure they've got some really cool stuff.
Yeah.
Did they have any up and running business use cases?
On their homepage, they had used by Tesla and some others.
Yeah, I think there are some big names in there.
That doesn't mean that's their main page.
It's
They-
like
they do
their
that a lot.
back
Oh,
burner
yeah.
page.
Tesla's using our stuff, like, yeah.
IBM, Walmart,
Sure.
Verizon.
Yeah, employees are making stuff in those, sure. But is that their page?
Probably not, I would
Yeah.
reckon.
It's like how Facebook uses PHP. Yeah, somewhere in there. It's mostly JavaScript though.
I still see pages
Probably an app back
that
in
end
HR or
in
something.
.php.
Right? It doesn't even
Oh,
touch the
WordPress is all
website
PHP.
whatsoever.
And that's like what 80% of the internet.
Runs their alarm
I
system.
meant for Facebook.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think
Connects to their
But yeah,
automatic
yeah,
lights
sure.
and
Or the
locks.
skate.
Right. Yeah. Can you guys control this gate from a terminal in here?
I can control from my phone.
Nice.
Yeah.
There's
Actually,
a whole, there's
I've
a
been
whole
curious-
story about that gate.
Yeah.
That's what I was mentioning it.
Oh,
Yeah,
were
I'll show
you
you the
locked
front
in
end.
or locked out or something?
No, it was an intern actually created it.
Yeah, so here it's on Netlify.
Dang, that's one heck of an intern. Where do I find those?
He's a full-time, he's a software, I think he's full-time now, has been for a while.
That's not a surprise to
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
We were all shocked, of course.
Exactly. It's a real curveball there. Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. No
Thanks, Brian.
problem.
Nice job.
Thank you. Oh wow, I went even over.